Is this the time of year where you would be experiencing more psychic attacks and more energetic interference than during any other time of year? Yes, indeed, this would be the time of year you would, and I'm going to explain exactly why that is, how that is, and a few reasons that fall into it. So, first and foremost, this is the time for witchcraft. You need to be vigilant, stay vigilant, always be aware of this. Don't expect to find clarity during this time of year. Clarity usually comes later and in the weeks to follow. By time, I mean mid-October through beginning of November, possibly even extending a little bit beyond that. But during this time, you might experience the most psychic attacks, possibly also physical attacks, but for sure, some sort of energetic interference, pushback, or other things happening in your life. And I actually can't think of a more charged time than during this time of year. Here are some reasons for it. First of all, it's indeed Halloween time. And this means we're dealing with amplified energy where people are participating in a lot of the dressing up, the costumes, the this and that. And a lot of them are, either in the symbol of a dead or like the witchcraft sorcery theme. Not all of them really, but, they're participating in all these rituals without knowing they're actually feeding into it. Remember, the more energy is given to it, the stronger something gets, even if it's not fully consciously given and people think it's just a gimmick or a nice something where they can take their kids to, or they can participate with their friends and parties and everything. For me personally, it's always felt a bit weird and off, so I barely do it these days at all. And I think Carnival is a much better time of year to participate if you really want to dress up to participate in those things. But traditionally, this time of year has always been a bit of a dark time because Halloween comes from the word All Hallows Eve, which ties into, All Saints Day, or just honoring the dead, and the veil between the life and the death and all of that, celebrating death, destruction. There's no coincidence that it all falls right now into this time of year. So this makes for some pretty amplified energy with a dark undertone. I'm sure the original sentiment wasn't meant to be dark, but of course, over the years or the centuries that it's been celebrated, or people were sold this entire idea that it's meant to be celebrated, it's just turned darker and darker. And this would indeed be, if someone is putting rituals on you or spells on you or curse work on you, this would be the most amplified time they could do it. And I'm talking about personal experience, why I have experienced these attacks during this time of year. And that's why exactly you need to stay extremely aware of it if you think you are under attack. Halloween comes from the Celtic tradition of, some people pronounce it Samhain, some people pronounce it Samhain, however you want to pronounce it. So Samhain is believed to be a time when the veil between the world of the living and the dead is thinned, allowing spirits to cross over. Now, that in and of itself sounds pretty innocent or pretty decent, right? A decent connotation to it. However, ironically, the veil, as thin as it's supposed to be, it's actually the worst times really to get psychic insight on matters, because all of this is causing a whole bunch of astral interference and psychic interference. And for me personally, I usually hold off until we're well into November to read on world matters or to really do, a lot of the psychic work, because due to those reasons, I've noticed there's just been this trend where it's almost impossible to get the most accurate insight during this time of year, because you're dealing with a lot of interference. And I also think the more people are being dragged into the new age witchcraft, or just the connotation of witches, it's becoming more and more hyped over the years. The more energy is being dragged into this, and the more is being fed into this entire massive kettle or portal, whatever you want to call it. So don't expect to find clarity during this time of year. If you're frustrated by that, it usually comes afterwards. And the veil thinning means you're also more prone to interference with other astral entities that are being called in during all these pseudo witchcraft sessions and other things. It's really not the best time for it. And I really recommend waiting until later. If there's some sort of ritual you have in mind, or something in general that you want to do, just wait until after. Similar to the Lionsgate portal, where everyone is just feeding into this is exactly the time of year where you don't want to be feeding into it. You want to hold off with your energy. The past 2 years have been especially tough, as a lot of additional portals have opened up or have been opened up. aiding in a lot of these dark agendas and overall funky energy. The conflicts that you see in certain parts of the world may have not been caused by all of this, but it's a good reflection of it, you know, because there's other tensions that are going on worldwide and they're just being amplified during this time of year. Last year, I was attacked exactly during this time of year. The person was using this portal energy and trying to destroy me and everything I stood for, which, by the way, backfired horribly. But that might be a story for a different day. So I know for sure someone who is not in integrity, who really is not, does not have the best intentions in head, they would be using this time of year to do exactly that. So just stay extremely aware of that. And in previous years, you know, there were other personal stories that happened to me. I have to say overall, it really depends on the year and the numerology of the year as well, you know, whether it's going to work in your favor or even kind of do it more towards the worst. But overall, October, November, it's just, there's a lot of strange energy going on. And I do want to say from 2020 and on, specifically, we're just dealing with the most strangest energy anyhow. So I would say just stay away from anything and just really psychically ward up the most you can. So use the right protection. I teach that in my psychic protection course. And this time of year really is no joke. It's important to pay attention to all of this. And if you have anything you want to share that happened to you during this time of year, definitely go ahead and do so. I just wanted to make this brief video on it because I do think people are going to be impacted by it or have been impacted by it in the past. And I hope this helps someone if you're going through it right now, or if you think this is a time for major decisions or major this and that. It could be good to maybe just hold off onto that. Or if you think you've kind of lost all that intuitive insight right now during this time of year, no, you haven't. It's just being too confused, too muddled up, and too mixed up with the entire other energy of what's going on. It's kind of how you need to see it. I hope this helps you, and I'll see you in the next one.